All right. I guess it's 6 o'clock. I clicked the button, and I was looking at the two different phones that I have, and one hit 6 before the other one, and was telling me that I need to go live, and the other one said I wasn't there yet, and I got confused. But I clicked the button, so I guess I'm live now, and looks like Joy of Fish Keeping has already been in here, working or at work, lurking a bit. I understand that. A lot of people, I think, are able to lurk and maybe listen while they're doing work. I thank you for that. And there's Cheryl. I remember this time. Welcome in. And Vanosky, welcome. And I don't know if we've been passing each other in the streams and stuff. It doesn't seem like I've seen Vanosky around in a while, but we'll probably I type something, he types something, we don't see each other's stuff, or maybe he sees my stuff and I don't see his stuff. But welcome in. There's Skull. I didn't think anybody would show up to the stream again this week. I think every time I do it, I'm going to think nobody's going to show up. I wasn't sure if I was going to get to stream today. Had a busy day out doing things, and ran my phone dead again. So I'm tethered to a cable. Wasn't really sure what to talk about in the stream. Figured to get on here and ramble again. But I was kind of thinking about it. I went to a pet store today and I was like, what would I be looking for? What's my bucket list fish? I used to always have a fish of I'm looking for this fish and I haven't found one in 4 years, but I don't really have that now because I've got the stuff that I wanted, or I've tried the stuff that I had on my list and realized that thing's not for me. So I guess right now, if I'm looking for anything, maybe a male Montezuma sword, because the for sure male that I had in my colony, it died or jumped out or disappeared or something. I can't find it. And I have a bunch of juveniles that could turn into be males, but I don't know if they are or not. So if I had a for sure male, so maybe that's what I look for when I go to club meetings and swaps and stuff, because pet stores won't have them. But at the club meeting last night, I picked up stuff that I definitely didn't need. Would not have believed that I would have picked it up, but I got. Okay, so I said ahead of time that I was going to buy some killies, and I did. I bought some orange Australs. Time to get a new light back here, I think. That one's flickered for months, and now it's doing its own little thing. Got some orange Australs. Can't say the names, but the little orange ones. I got a pair of those. I got a pair of Vivatani, Lagos Red. Where the Lagos Red killifish is, I got a pair of those, and I got a whole community, 8 of the clown killies. So I guess I'm gonna try killies again. Skull says he needs some Monties too. Yeah, I've had Montezumas before, and they got a bad years ago, and they got a bad case of wasting disease. So I guess they had parasites that I couldn't treat, but that's typically what that is. Because I tried all the treatments I knew, and it just took care of them. And at auctions and stuff, they've been going for a lot more than I wanted to pay because I'm a cheapskate. But then I found these that were pretty cheap, and I got those, but then the mail disappeared. Benassi says, can you give your opinion on how to deal with fish going to their retirement stage? I'm guessing you mean they're no longer breeding. And I have fish that do that, and depending on their size, I turned my 125 into more of a mixed community tank. So if they're a little larger, then go in there. But a lot of times, you know, I'll have stuff that stops breeding, and I just keep them to the. I might keep them in that same tank with the other breeders, or I may have a smaller tank that I move them to the side. I don't often like do any like what people would think of like culling with them. I know some people like when they get done breeding, they just feed them to something bigger, or and I usually don't do that. I don't know. Monolith Maven. I don't think that I said hello to you, but welcome in. Whatever that Biva, whatever that looks right. Like I said, I'm not good with the killy names, but I picked them up, and I've had the Lagos Red before, but I've not had the Australs before. I've not had Clown Killies before, but I figured let's try them. Scotty's in. Welcome, Scotty. And Scotty says, just use my Python for like the third time ever. Do 2 cold water changes on Corridor tanks. Flooded the second one like whip. Enough water changes for that. I was doing water changes on this 55 here, and it's really turned into just a pleco breeding colony. All the small or little like juvenile swordtails in there disappeared. All my little barbs disappeared. I think I figured out what happened to them. But I was doing a water change on it, and I got distracted looking up here at my pistos and super reds, and I think my pistos are beginning to breed a little bit more, and I still need to pull my super reds out. But I almost overflowed the 55 down here. So Monolith Maven, and I think that's Shirley. I'm horrible with names again, people. Says I'll skip some up here. Let's go with this one first. I have Australia, Fun Packs, Garden Ride Gold, Fun Packs. Oh, all these fancy names. The Resenia. I'm not going to pronounce that one because I know I can't, because the Blue Galaris. And a couple of Rankius. I've always said that I'm not a killifish person, and I'll get them and keep them for a month or two and be like, okay, I'm not a killifish person, and I'll send them to the auction to go to somebody else. And Scotty's looking for the one-sided live bears after he saw those on Foxy's stream. Cinnamon's here. I don't think I said hello to you. Hello, and Fish Fam Links is here, so hello. But yeah, I've got a few killies, and I shouldn't have bought them because I didn't have any place to put them. So they're just kind of like in temporary tanks right now. I'm gonna have to like move some fish around and maybe potentially build another little shelf for some smaller tanks. But you know, I thought I would try breeding some different stuff. I can't remember the I'm not good with the scientific name of that one-sided live bear, Scotty, but when I see it I recognize it, but I don't know what I don't remember it right off the top of my head. I've seen it a few times. But what I think happened to all my swimming fish in this tank, or the up in the water column, the juveniles that I had, is yesterday or the day before, I was kind of looking at this tank, just kind of looking in there, seeing what's going on. And I see, we'll go with what my mind thinks at the time. I see a pleco, an adult, what looks like a large adult female pleco between a couple of the rocks, and has like white spots on her that looks like a snowball. I'm like, these are just regular bristlenose. They don't have spots when they're adults like that. What's up with that? And then as it turned, it's like the front half is like the chocolate color, and the back half looks like an albino color. And I'm like, have I got like a half and half pleco in there? And it turned again, and I see whiskers, like barbels. And I'm like, okay, plecos don't have those. What are you? So I dig it out and get it out, and it's a Raphael catfish. I didn't even know I had one of those. A good size, fat Raphael catfish that's been eating good. And why it was like dark in the front and white in the back is my best guess. The plecos in there have been fighting it and have basically like skinned the back half. So I've got it in quarantine now with some medications, and hopefully it heals up. But I think it's been eating the smaller like swordtails and barbs and stuff that I had in there, and it's probably trying to eat the baby plecos. That's why the parents were, or the other plecos were fighting off. But I've never seen that happen before, and it was just wild. I didn't even know that I had a Raphael in there. So Skulls identified the one-sided live bear, and he's trying to breed them. They are difficult, and I have heard, and I don't know if it's the truth or not, but I've heard that some are to the left and some are to the right, that if you have like a mismatched pair, that their parts can't line up to even breed. I don't know if that's true. I've never bred them myself. I've never kept them, but they're pretty interesting fish. I bid on some half beaks at the auction, and I got distracted and forgot that I was bidding, and somebody else won them. But they were pretty neat. It was like platinum Celebes half beaks. But yeah, as far as my like bucket list fish, I think the Male Montezuma is about it right now. And, I think I'll try to get like some cichlids and stuff that I've bred in the past, like years before the Breeders' Awards program, and like breed them again to turn them in for the Breeders' Awards program, like cribs and a couple different jewel cichlids. Because I bred those and got out of those before the club here had a Breeders' Awards program, but breed them and get some extra points there. Cheryl says half beaks are cool. Very hard to get the fry before they predated on them. Okay. Yeah, when I bred the pike live bear, I might do that again. I hated breeding those, but that was kind of an issue too. The female, well, the male would eat the babies too, but the female would eat the babies and the male, and that's what ended up happening. It's like she ate the male that I had with her, and but I got babies off of them, but then they eat like bottomless pits and keeping up with baby guppies or whatever. I was feeding them shell dwellers. And Nancy B made it in. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I don't know if I'll do that one again. But the half beaks look cool. I mean, they look like miniature pike live bears. And that's happened to me more than one time, of getting distracted during the middle of an auction and forgetting that I was bidding and losing the fish. Yeah, I've had 3 pair of the Bellina socks. My brain always tells me to say that word wrong. The pike live bears, I had 3 pairs of those. I got one of them to breed before she ate the males. And but then feeding the babies was a nightmare. I couldn't breed the guppies fast enough. But they're neat fish. I mean, they don't really do anything. They just sit there. They're ambush predators, so they don't swim around They just sit in like a floating plant, just sit there and wait. But they're cool. I got some of them once from Ryan with Wild Fish Tanks down in Florida, and I think it's neat that like supposedly I haven't done it, but supposedly you can go to Florida and catch those things on like a small fishing reel, like not even like the micro fishing, but just a smaller like I guess what people normally catch like bluegill and stuff on. But that's wild. I'm gonna have to go fishing in Florida sometime. Um, but yeah, finding the raw-tail catfish in this tank was wild. So that's a new task to heal it up if I can. And then I guess I need to restock with. I probably need to like clean that tank out and see what's actually in there and restock it probably with maybe some more swordtails or something. But I don't remember if last week my super reds had laid eggs, but I pulled a cave out of there and a male with a cave full of eggs, put them in a separate tank. So anytime now they should hatch out. Nancy B says, need to come up and go fishing in Kentucky as soon as it warms up again. Yeah, I was on my drive today. I drove past the lake and I saw some people out there fishing, and it's like 20 degrees outside. And I'm like, I like fishing, but I don't know what the word is. I don't want to be cold. I don't want to be out there, the wind blowing at 20 degrees and like me freezing to death trying to catch a fish. You know, I'd rather be comfortable and enjoy myself. That's why I don't do like any like ice fishing or winter fishing or anything. But on a day that it's like 60 or 70 or warmer, I'm okay with that. But the type of fishing that Nancy's probably looking at doing, I might need it to be a little warmer because I'm probably going to be getting wet more. But yeah, we're working to plan our club's summer native collecting trip. And we do that in June, so it's warm enough then. And we're going to find a spot that's not going to get flooded out because the last 2 years, we tried to do the same spot the last 2 years because the first year it got flooded out. The water went from like 2 feet to 9 feet overnight. I thought that's weird. And then the next year we said, well, next year, we're going to just do it the same spot since we didn't get to last year. And it did the same thing. Like it went from like 2 or 3 feet to 9 feet. And it's the lake upstream opening the gates on their dam to let the water pressure out and raises. And apparently they do it at the same time every year, and we just didn't know. So we're not going to go there in June. But we're going to try another little spot or two and see what we can find. And I might actually be convinced to keep natives now. I've been looking at them. I've never really liked natives. Like in the aquariums, I like them in the streams. They're cool, but I never really liked keeping them in the tanks. But now some of them are looking more appealing. Nancy says Sarah invited me to collect it in January. I iced my tubs that morning. It's too cold for that. Yeah. When it's, I don't want to get out in the water when it's cold. I don't want to get out in the air when it's cold. So, and there's like for me, I watch how far south I go. It's like there's some streams like where I went to college that I was like, I think it'd be cool to go in there, native collecting, but I won't even go fishing there because even to fish in there, a regular fishing license doesn't cover you. You have to have special permits to get in there because of the fish that are in there, special tags and stuff. Even if you're not fishing for those fish. So, but that's just in that little area. But yeah, when we went to a local river close to where I live, I found, and I didn't even know these things existed, but little hog suckers, but apparently they get to be big hog suckers. And it was like a school of them, like 100. And that was just appealing to me. It was like 100 little, what looked like loaches to me, just swimming all together. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And then now I've seen that, and then like, well, that'd be cool to have some juveniles of that with maybe some uh, darters or shiners or something. So I might be convinced of that. And maybe like, you know, talk about ice in the tubs. Maybe doing them in a tub would be a good place to transition to start convincing myself that natives are cool to keep. Hog suckers are flounders, right? Like my thought of flounder is no, it's not this. They look like like when they're juvenile like that, they look more like a Chinese algae eater style, like a loach. But then as they get bigger, they kind of grow into their body a little bit more, and it's a sucker fish. Got that long body with a sucker mouth on it. Nancy says darters are her favorite. They have big personality and such little guys. Yeah, I like the look of sculpins too. I accidentally kept a sculpin once. I didn't know what it was, and it came in a tank that I got the tank from somebody, and it had a sculpin in it. And I'm like, I don't know what you are, but you look like a blenny that I would have in my saltwater tank. And kept it for a while, not having any clue what it was. And I don't know if they're supposed to be hard to keep or easy to keep, but I kept it. But it's, I think right now the Montezuma male is the only like the only kind of bucket list fish. Nancy says skull, those are hog chokers. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I was thinking, there's a flounder called a hog something, but I couldn't remember what it was. I thought my brain was just not working correctly. But it is hog choker. It is a type of flounder. And a hog sucker. I don't know why we name stuff. Why we name fish hog something? Hog choker, hog sucker, hog. I don't know. It's just weird. Now maybe I'm not. Never mind. I'm not even saying that. But yeah, if we had flounder around here, that would be neat too. The place that we're talking about going for my club native collecting, we did it like back in 22, but I didn't get to go to it. But I saw all kinds of pictures, and they caught all types of stuff there, from catfish to darters and shiners and all kinds of stuff. But they had a little extra help. They had one of the professors there that studies Kentucky fish. He had one of those electro fisher things. So I don't know how those work, but he had like rods that go in with a battery backpack, and it slowed the fish down. It didn't like kill them or anything. It slowed them down enough that somebody could come by and scoop them up. And June says not every fish can have a cool name like Oscar. Do you know why they're called Oscars? I've always wondered why that fish was called an Oscar. Because to me, Oscar's like a person's name, and so like Jack Dempsey is a person's name, but it's called that because of the boxer. It's Oscar because of like somebody. I don't know, but I can't think of any other fish with a person's name. Like we don't have a fish named Tommy that I know of. Get a Tommy fish. Oscars need an appropriate hog name. So we're just gonna like give all the fish like new common names with hog in the name. That would be fun. Oscar the Grouch. Yeah, I mean it's a person's name of Oscar, and he's a grouch. So yeah, I don't know why they're called Oscars either, but um, it's neat. Maybe it was the person that and usually common names aren't from people that discovered them and stuff, but maybe it was the person that found the Oscar fish for the, because I know people like in the Amazon knew they were there, but people outside of the Amazon, when they went and found them, maybe the person that found them was named Oscar, and they're like, oh, that's Oscar's fish. I don't know either. It'd be neat to know. I'm sure there's probably not a fun story behind it, but it'd be neat if there was a fun story. I know some of the scientific names have some interesting stories. Live bears have some really crazy innuendo type names. All right, we got some research done here. Oscar fish are believed to be named Oscar due to a 20th century simplification or corruption of their scientific name. Okay. See, we need a cool story though. Let's just make stuff up. I mean, we need a hog Oscar. Oscar hog. I don't know. Well, thank you for looking it up. For that's there's a lot of fish and animals that they're called something because the scientific name isn't pronounced correctly or something. Let's see, before Oscar became standard, they were sometimes called marble cichlids or velvet cichlids. Which, I can see that being a problem because, a marble cichlid, there's lots of them that kind of look marbleized. But that's common names for you. The crib, I've heard people call them rainbow fish, rainbow cichlids. And there's a family of rainbow fish, and there is a rainbow cichlid. So that can get confusing also. Let's see, Cheryl, maybe they caught the first Oscar in a trash can. Could have. I mean, that's neat. I know they get big enough that you might need a trash can to catch them out there. And it's wild. Like in Florida's just an amazement to me. Like you can go to Florida and catch Oscar while you're just like sport fishing. It's like all the parts of the world just kind of come together into Florida, and you got fish from the Amazon, fish from Asia, and reptiles roaming around that shouldn't be there. And I don't know. Gonna get some cross hybridization to create some like horror movie monster or something. Oh yeah, that's the species name, I believe, the Ostulatus. So I can see how that would be, So it says Ostulatus. I can't remember that. I'll just say Oscar. And Ostulatus. Does that mean spot? Spotted or spot? Skull says, should go with me next year to go collecting with Richard Reynolds. Well, I've had I've had multiple people invite me down to go collecting in Florida, but my schedule is like so jacked up. Getting getting off work to do anything, work gets in the way of fish. I need to like figure out a way to make the fish pay for pay for everything, so that I don't have to like go do the. I was gonna say 9 to 5, but if it was 9 to 5, it'd be great too. The 5 to 5, which I'll leave here at 3 to get there, so I guess it's not 5 to 5. Anyways, so it means eye spot. Okay. Onyx Maven says my ostrich is getting pretty big already. She was tiny, now she's 4 inches. Her name is Artemis. She's a brat. Yeah, it's like if I didn't have to, go to work and stuff, but I still got the money, I could have some real fun. Like I've had people invite me to go to Mexico collecting with them, and Colombia collecting with them, and Peru. But I only get so much time off work, and I use that to go to like swaps and conventions and stuff. I've taken off work to get stuff ready to go to swaps and stuff before, especially like my local one here. I mean, it's only like an hour away from me, but where I'm in, one of the people in charge of like putting it together and stuff, it'll take me like 3 days the week of to get everything lined up and in order to go. That I can't really take a week or 2 off to go to Colombia collecting. Not right now, maybe in the future. Let's see. June says I love grumpy fish. Oscars are definitely grumpy, but they can be pouty and moody, and just they're moody. They over exaggerate their emotions, and it's wild to think that fish have emotions, but the Oscar's proof of it. Nancy says, Skull, I hope you and Richard come collecting with me in Kentucky. I'm hoping that we get even though I'll probably get stuck doing something with the convention, not get to go do it, not participate, but I'm hoping we'll get like a native collecting thing, people wanting to get something organized to go collecting there in Lexington for the convention. There's a couple spots that I've looked at, and the spot that we're looking at doing from a local club is only like 30-ish minutes away from Lexington. But like I said, I'll probably get stuck with the fish show or something and not get to go on any collecting. Skull's planning on it. June says Peru would be fun. I mean, honestly, I think going and collecting anywhere would be fun. Peru, I think would be great. Colombia, I think would be neat. Mexico, I mean, up until like I got into Goodyears, I'm like, Mexico, why are you going to Mexico? There's nothing in Mexico. But then, now that I'm thinking about it and I've learned more about it, all the Goodyears in Mexico. Then they've also got the other live bears like swordtails and stuff. And there's cichlids down there too so there's a lot of fish to get in Mexico that I didn't even think about. And then, there's a group that just came back recently from Uruguay that they got a bunch of neat stuff. As long as you go collecting with people that are in the same type of stuff as you are, like for me, if it's a killifish group going, I'll probably wait and go the next trip because they'll be going crazy about killifish. I'm like, it's just a killifish. Show me these one-sided live bears or whatever. The live bear stuff is what attracts me, and some of the cichlids, and maybe a catfish or something now and then. Oh, June, the The grumpy, moody fish reminds you of you. Okay. A Big E support group. Welcome in. So Curtis is planning on making it. And Cheryl's wondering if Richard's planning on making it up. Curtis says Richard is. And June, yeah, definitely there's more in Peru than fish. Yeah, and that's the thing is like in all the areas there's different birds and different mammals and different reptiles and stuff than what I'm used to here. I'll see squirrels and raccoons and stuff here, but there they've got different stuff. Don't know that I would want to see like a jaguar or something, but maybe from a really far distance. But if it's there, I would rather see it than not see it. Too much risk in it being there and me not seeing it, I think. Cheryl says, yay, someone else I wanted to meet in person. Vibes. Let's see, Skull says vibes, and we've lost one too. Okay, so I'm remembering follow Vibes around to get all the free stuff that he drops. Yeah, I'm hoping that because the Triple Crown was, in my opinion, a great event for the YouTubers. I know that there was downsides like the lack of organization there with the clubs, the national clubs talking to each other, that they hadn't done a joint convention before, and they thought the people that are into killifish won't be into rainbows and they won't be into cichlids, but after they start doing like, wait a minute, I keep cichlids and live bears, so I definitely want to do both things. So after that, all of the ones that I've been to that have been joint conventions, they've worked a lot better. They've planned together and not had things overlapping. But what I was thinking of before I got sidetracked with that was we had, I don't remember, I think it was like 70 YouTube Fish Tube people there, and we all got to hang out around the fire pit and just hang out and talk and stuff, and that was great fun. And I would like to have that happen again. I'm not sure this place is a fire pit. If it was like the Triple Crown, a skipper will get us kicked out of the inside part. But we'll find some place to hang out and just get to meet up with people again. Because it's good to see everyone in person and meet people that I haven't met before. Because talking to you on streams and in chats, stuff, that's one thing. We get to know each other stuff. But it seems like you get to know people even better when you're there in person. Maybe it's a body language thing or something. I'm not good with all that stuff. But yeah, just getting to see people and put an actual, I see people on camera, but an actual like physical face with the person is great in my opinion. And the behind the scenes things, you go out to eat with people and the way they react to their food coming out, and Ed's got a great story of me and him and Fisher and Fever and Jesse from Science Scale Aquatics all going out to eat, and it was an interesting adventure. Let's see, Cheryl says, can't wait until June, plus I need a vacation. Yeah, and depending on what you're into, there's other stuff to do around the area. I know they've got like the bourbon trail where you can go to the different distilleries and stuff. They're going to one of them as part of the convention that you can book that trip, but you can go to the other ones on your own if you had time to go up and visit the different distilleries or sports farms that will let you go on tours, different stuff like that, depending on what you're into. Or if you're like me and I just hang out and do the fish thing, and then that's to me a better vacation than like going to the beach or going to the mountains or stuff like that. I love just seeing the fish, talking to the fish people, That's great for me. And I was telling people at the club meeting last night, because there's a lot of people in my club that haven't been to a convention. And I tell them, like, hey, we're hosting the convention, and here's what it is. And I told them, I said, book your room. I know you live down the street from the place, but you will be up till 4 o'clock in the morning talking to somebody, and then you'll be wanting to get up at 9 o'clock the next morning to go to the presentation, and you won't want to drive 20 minutes home and 20 minutes back. You just want to, like, go pass out in your room for a couple hours. But yeah, I stay up late and then pay for it later. Following vibes, yeah. Yeah, I heard the stories about, Vibes just has that vibe about him that all the vendors just want to, like, here, try this, here, take this. And then he's got so much stuff he can't hold it on. He's like, here, hold this for me. Here, take this. Let's see. Skull says Lemmy will be there for a day or two also. And I used to, and I haven't seen it be done in a while. I know that they've tried it at the Clash a couple times and it didn't get communicated well and have people work there. But I used to, when we'd go to like things like this, like conventions or big events, that all the Fish Tube people would say, okay, on Saturday night at 7 o'clock, we're going to meet at the main staircase, and we would get a group photo, and somebody would take the lead, and like on the Friday night, we would decide when and where. Like the first day, we decide when and where we're going to do it, and then we go around and tell everybody. If you can't be there, if one or two people can't be there, okay, understandable, but we're going to try to get everybody at one spot to take a picture, because it's neat looking back and seeing pictures from like Aquaticon in Knoxville the year that they had that. And people was like, oh, I haven't seen this person in years and they were there, but I haven't seen them on YouTube in a while. And, kind of, the memories of it. And she says, sounds like a bunch of our internet group will be there. We definitely need to find a Fish Fam hangout spot. And it seems like there's always a hangout spot for these type of events for the Fish Fam. I get lost at the Clash because I don't know if it's because there's so many YouTubers there or because the YouTubers are so integrated into like doing things now that sometimes they're in the lobby and sometimes they're back at the little restaurant thing and sometimes they're outside and sometimes they're over in the showroom. The 2 times that I've been to the Clash, it's never been, hey, if you're ever looking for somebody, we're always going to meet at this spot. Like it was at the Triple Crown. Triple Crown, if you were ever looking for the Fish Fam people, they were always outside of the fire pit. Skull says, me too. I like hanging out with my friends. Yeah, and I know you all understand, but like other people, like, that's weird that your friends are like people on the internet. But we get to meet up. But some of us get to meet up over, maybe we don't see each other for 2 or 3 years, but we get to meet up and talk and, we text back and forth and all of that. So, I see this as a friend group. But it's a lot of fun hanging out with people in person also. And I'm hoping we get a lot of people there. And it's already growing faster than what they projected. They were like when I told them, I was like, let's do it in Lexington. Because when we got awarded the bid or whatever to do the convention, like, well, why don't we have it in Louisville? Louisville's a bigger city. And they didn't think Lexington would pull people in, and didn't think that we could really pull it off in Lexington. And I like it'll be fine, And now it's really pulling people in, and a lot of people are registering for it. And I've been, a lot of people in Kentucky, don't get to go to that type of thing because the closest it'll be is like in Louisville once every 10 years, maybe, or it might be in Cincinnati every now and then. But getting a little deeper in Kentucky gets the appeal to more people in Kentucky. And then, that gets it closer to people in Tennessee too, because, I know a lot of people in Tennessee that haven't been to a convention. They don't, they didn't even know a convention existed. I sort of talked to them about it. So, just a short little drive up from Tennessee, and then pulling from the Ohio groups and Indiana. But hopefully we can get a lot of people there. Nancy says, Whip and Killer Kitty. I met Whip and Killer Kitty for the first time in person last weekend. Just like hanging out with old friends. Yeah. And that is neat that you all get together and like go to the aquarium and stuff like that. Every time I go down to the aquarium, it's just, me or family or stuff like that. And I never even think about, oh, Ed's down the street. I should call him and see if he wants to go, or you're up the road there a little bit, to get more people to go with me. My brain doesn't think about that. I'm just like, oh, let's go to the aquarium, and I drive down to go through. Skull's got to hang out with Whip twice. As long as I can keep up with people, like Whip's told the story a couple times that we both went to the OCA last year, the year before, or something like that. Anyways, one year we both went to the OCA, and Jeremy from Aquarium Domain was there, and we met up in one of the presentations, and they were going to go do something. I was going to do something. I was like, okay, we'll get back together later. And we spent the whole weekend going to presentations, going to the fish shows, going to different things, and our paths never crossed again. And I'm like, okay, who avoided who, because we didn't see each other the whole time. And there's a lot going on with the OC. There's a fish show, and then there's a vendor's room, and then it's like any convention. But with the room sales, somebody could be up on the 4th floor looking at a room while shopping in a room while you're down in the fish show looking at something, and then you go up to the 4th floor to that room, and they went down to a presentation. And I guess we didn't communicate very well. We're just like, oh, we're running into each other. Let's see. Cheryl says, Curtis, I think I have Whip talked into wild type betas. That will be fun. We should definitely get Whip into wild type betas. We need to get him into smaller fish. Skull says, advice in advance, be careful if Jeremy hands you anything to drink. It will be very potent. And if anyone hands you anything to eat, be sure you know what it is and what might be in it. There's been a few events that there have been drinks of question and snacks of question that people took advantage of that didn't know the full contents of those items, and found out later. And Cheryl's told Whip, I'm assuming that she'll bring him some beta my brain doesn't say scientific names when I'm on camera, apparently. Unimaculata to Kentucky. And, I've recently got into the wild type betas. So I've got some rubra. I've never kept those. I've never kept wild type betas before. But to me, I hear beta, and I'm thinking the colorful, splendid hybrid things that are out there. And I'm like, everybody's got those. Why do I want that? But now I'm kind of dabbling in more things than just the live bearers and the cichlids. I'm picking up some different plecos, and I've actually got some cories. I've never liked cories, and I've got 2 different species right now. That's a shocker. I got pygmy cories and I call them simulus cory, but somebody else told me they were like called a stink pot cory or something like that. I don't know what, but the scientific name or species name is simulus. Smudge pot, maybe. Anyways, I'm kind of getting into cories. I've never really liked cories, but I'm kind of getting into them a little bit. And apparently I'm into killifish for at least a couple months because I've got some killifish. Breeding rainbows. It sounds like a LeVar Burton show. And pseudomugills, I've got pseudomugills that were laying eggs. And they did that for a while. They stopped after the winter storm, but maybe I can get them going again. But yeah, I'm keeping different stuff that I'm not, y'all be proud of me. I'm branching out some. Brownies are questionable. Those brownies were questionable. I've seen some other products come through over the years that ended up being questionable. Cheryl says I need more cories. I almost bought a stir-by the other day, but they only had one, and I didn't want to get just one stir-by. Moneyless Mavens Aquatics says I've got my beta Alba Marginata, but the male doesn't seem to be interested despite the female being dressed ready. I'm thinking of separating them for a week or two. Yeah, I've got maybe 6 beta rubra, and I put them in a tank and didn't really look at them in detail. Excuse me. And so I don't know if I've got males or females. When I got them, the guy I got them from told me he gave me pairs, but I've been told that before and then find out that I've got like all males except for one female or something like that. Or I picked up some platies at an auction a couple weeks back and it turns out they're guppies. Sometimes you don't get what you're told you're getting. So I need to look at them, and because I would like to breed them too, the beta rubra, and I need to look at them and get better at tell males and females. I've looked online of how to do it, but I haven't like visually done it myself, my own eyes. So that would be fun. Especially, I think the beta rubras are mouth brooders. So the only thing I've done this mouth brooder is like Malawi cichlids. Smudge spot. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember if it's like stink pot, smudge pot, something, but that just sounds like a weird combination. Smudge spot. But I called it sinless. Violet cories. Okay, I hadn't heard that one. Cheryl has several species of cory fry growing up. I've got a little colony of pygmy cories that hopefully they'll breed. I was talking to Fox and she said they should be breeding, but that my guppies and plecos in the tank are probably eating all the eggs, so I need to again separate them out. I'm not going to have me getting like 500 tanks again. And like if I was into cories, I see Cheryl says that sometimes it's difficult to find as many types as she has. If I was into cories, I run into my brain just went blank. Mitchell Broom. I run into Mitchell Broom quite often, and he's always breeding cories and trying to get me to buy cories. So I could get different types, but like picking them at the pet store, like I went to a pet store the other day, yesterday I guess it was, and they had different types in the tanks. And I'm like, oh, what's this? She's like, it's a Cory. It's a catfish. They stay this big. I'm like, you know what type of Cory? She goes, it's a spotted one. I'm like, okay, thank you. So I'm guessing they just ordered like assorted Corys and they just don't know what they have. Talking about different types of Corys there. And the pet store that I was at, they had different plecos, and they had like some common names up there. They had two clearly different fish, both labeled with the same common name. And I'm like, okay, do you know the L numbers on these? I'm like, I can Google it. And I'm like, well, you have this one labeled as that, and that one labeled as that. You're going to Google what is that common name's L number. So I didn't pick any of the plecos up. I figured if I can't specifically tell what it is, or they don't have it labeled as an L number, because there's like 7 or 8 or more probably labeled as zebra or tiger or even snowball. There's like 4 or 5 different species of plecos that are called snowball. The deck crab, we have small for extra run. That's the last month. Yeah, I mean, Corys are starting to appeal to me some. So, especially if I can get like my little pygmies to breed. Once something breeds, it really intrigues me more. And that's like my Gardner killifish. I've got those breeding. I've got the Gardner killifish breeding. And when I get babies from them, I'm like, oh, I need more killifish. And the dwarf rainbows, the praycocks, they've been breeding for me. So I'm like, do I need to like get some other rainbow fish and work with them too? I don't know. Nancy says, I think not picking up plecos is always a good choice. Yeah, I wasn't really into plecos until recently also, which recently is like 3 years ago. I started getting like different types. But it was always just, the bristle nose. But then I picked up some 201s and 199s, and I've got 181s and 104s. It's still the cheap L number plecos because I'm a cheapskate. I haven't paid I bought one L46 zebra, and then it died on the trip back. But that was the most expensive one, although there's been like $15, $20, something like that. Let's see. That's cool. Mine should be old enough to breed, I think. I was hoping to add more. I was hoping to adding more would trigger them without much triggering. I've been lazy, and it's worked for me. I'm always lazy. I want the lazy way to breed stuff. That's why I don't do annual killifish with all the peat and letting them sit on the shelf for 30 days or whatever. Nobody's got time for that. I want the non-annuals. They land them up. You pull them up, pull the eggs, you leave them in there, and do whatever. And Skull says very selective on giving a tank to plecos. I understand that, and that's why right now this tank wasn't supposed to be pleco only. It had swordtails and barbs and stuff in it, and apparently the Raphael ate them. And my 24-hour water change didn't help with that either. But all of my other tanks, they have plecos in them. Like I got my 199s up back on that side over there, and they're in with Lemmy Appreciate. They're just like popping out babies left and right. My 104s are over here with some Lemmias and Guppies, and they're not in with Lemmias and Guppies. They're in with Guppies, and that's the one that my 104s are in with my pygmy Corys. And my 201s are back there with some angels and some barbs and stuff. So they're sharing all right now, but if I really got into it, I would designate this tank just for those. But I usually like when they have babies, I'll pull the babies and put them in a little grow out tank. But I've got my super reds that are fixing to hatch out. They're in with some real juvenile Nezzy swords, so they can't bother them. See if I can catch up on chat here. It's 7. I'm supposed to be going to get food. Long finned albino bristlenose. Yeah, I guess that's something on my bucket list now too. Is some long fins. I don't like long fins, but everybody else likes long fins. So if I can get those in the mix of breeding, Chris Savage Cichlids. I never noticed that your name's come out like that. Welcome in. I'm trying to catch up on chat so that I can end it because I'm supposed to be going to get food at 7 and I'm a little late. But I want to make sure I get through the chat real quick. Species like blue water, low plants, sandy bottoms. Yeah, the triggering for different fish. It could be different things like cories. I know a lot of people have mentioned in previous stuff that cories, like in the wild, they'll lay in deep leaf litter. So maybe whenever I get to that. If you're trying to breed something with blue Glarus in the tank, blue Glarus will eat babies. They'll eat eggs. They'll sometimes eat adult fish if they're small enough. I almost bought red Glarus at the meeting, but I didn't want to. I didn't know about where I would put it, which didn't thought any of those, so I don't have excuse. I'm going to share. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry I can't stay longer. I ran through the chat, make sure I wasn't missing anything. But thank you all so much for joining in and coming and getting the chat going. So I'm not thinking, oh, what do I talk about? What do I talk about? It's been great. It's really inspiring me, and I'm going to try to do it again next week. Cross my fingers. I don't know that I got anything going on that is going to keep me from it. I got an ACA convention meeting next week, but I think that's later. But web. Oh, email. Okay. I'm like, how do you webcam somebody? All right, I might do that. I'll try to remember. And but yeah, I'll try to get something together to go next week also. But the following week, I know I'm giving 2 presentations that week, so I won't be able to do that. But thank you all again for being here and joining in the chat and just enjoying spending time with you all through this. And I'll see you all later.